and we're going to do the verb ser in Spanish. The verb ser is the most used verb in both Spanish and English. Ser in English, ser means to be, and that's when we're using is, am, or are. Well, we're going to talk about a conjugation. A conjugation is when we take a verb and say that a person, one of the subject pronouns that we've practiced before, is doing the action. In English, most verbs have two different conjugations in the present tense. In other words, we use two different spellings of that verb when we're using the present tense. Now, there's one exception where we use three conjugations or three different spellings of that verb when we're in the present tense. And that is with this verb ser, or the verb in English to be. Spanish is a little bit different, and it's a little bit more exact than what we are in English. In Spanish, there are always 6 conjugations based on the subject pronouns, not just 3 or 2. 2 most of the time, 3 this one time. Well, let me give you an example in English. First, let's take the verb to talk. Okay, so now if I would put the subject pronouns in front of talk, and I put it in the present tense in English, I would say, I talk, you talk, he talks, she talks, we talk, they talk. So we just have 2 conjugations. We have talk, spelled T-A-L-K, and we have talks, T-A-L-K-S. So we use talk with I and you and we and they. We use talks when we have he and she. So we have 2 different verb conjugations. Well, again, in Spanish, there's going to be 6 different verb conjugations with every one. So that'd be kind of a difference in a way of thinking that we have to do. Well, let's give a second example in English, and that would be with the verb that we're going to be talking about and using today, and that is the verb ser. Well, number 2, the one verb in English that has 3 conjugations is the verb to be. So if I would put the subject pronouns in front of the verb to be in English, we don't really say I be, but we would say I am, we would say you are, he is, she is, we are, they are. So in English, we have 3 conjugations or 3 different spellings or variations that we would use of the verb ser. We have am and is and are. Well, now we're going to try to figure out how to do the Spanish verb ser, which means to be in English. And notice, as we look at the chart down here, that the numbering is not how you would expect the numbering in counting. In counting, we'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to say, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6. Well, that sounds like a really weird way to count, but what it is each one of those numbers would show a different verb conjugation or a different way that we would spell the verb in Spanish. And so if you remember back with our pronouns, we have yo. Number 1 would be yo, and that means I. Well, in Spanish, if I wanted to say I am, I would say yo soy. Number 2 conjugation, that would be you. So in English, we'd be saying you are. Well, the word for you in the number 2 situation would be tú, which means you that's familiar. That would be you that would be a friend, a relative, somebody younger than you, somebody that you're familiar with on a first name basis, or a peer. So we're saying you are. Well, in Spanish, we would say tú. And then the form of ser we would use would be eres, E-R-E-S. Well, then we have 3. Well, you can see there's a bunch of 3s there. 3, él means he. So he is, well, we would say el for he, and that is would be s. Then number 3 again, because we're going to use the same verb ending, the same verb spelling. She is, well, the word for she is ella. That would be ella, s. So s would be the same whether it's el or ella. And if we want to say usted, you that is formal, you that I respect, you that have a title, you somebody I don't know, so you that somebody that's older than me, that's formal. I would say you are in English, but in Spanish, I would say usted. I'm still going to use the number 3 conjugation, which is s, usted es. And number 3, we have the word it. If you remember, I told you that in Spanish, we don't really have a subject pronoun for it. So there is no word that we would use. But if I wanted to say it is, I simply would just say the word S. And so if I have S all by itself, that would mean it is. Let's go to number 4. Number 4 would be we are. So how we say we is nosotros, and that means we that's masculine or a mixed group. And the verb ending that we would use for are would be somos, S-O-M-O-S, nosotros somos. We have another number 4. That's because we have nosotras. That would be we, but it's only girls that are involved in that group of we. So that's we that's feminine, are. We're still going to use somos, but we would just say nosotras. Nosotras somos. We that are feminine are. Number 5, we said vosotros, they use in Spain, but they don't use that. They wouldn't use it here in the United States or Mexico or Central America or South America. This would just be in Spain. So we're basically going to have this just so that we can recognize it, but I'm not going to expect us to use it because around here we probably wouldn't use it. But in a lot of reading material and stuff, you will see this, ever so often. So we at least need to know what it means and be able to understand and identify the meaning of it. Vosotros means you, that's plural, more than one person. It means that it's masculine, and all of you are from Spain, and that we know all of you, that you are familiar, your friends or relatives. And that would be sois, vosotros sois. Well, same thing on number 5, we have vosotras. That would be you all in Spain, except this time it's feminine, who are friends or peers on a first name basis. And that would be vosotras sois. You all from Spain are. Now we have number 6. Number 6 is ellos. Ellos means they that are masculine or they that's a mixed group. And the verb ending would be son. Ellos son, they are. Then we have another word, ellas means they, but this time it means that in that group of they, there are only girls. So it's they that are feminine. Well, they that are feminine are be ellas son. Still have the same verb conjugation, son, but we would clarify it by saying ellas, they that are girls. Finally, the last one, ustedes means you, that is plural in all of the Spanish-speaking countries. So you, the plural, are, you all are. We would say son, ustedes son. So we have all of our pronouns, but we have 6 conjugations where it's either going to be soy, it's going to be eres, es with all of those, somos with those 2, sois with those 2, son with those 3. And so it looks like it could be confusing, but really it isn't. Because with every sentence, we would be going by the context. Now, something that we do in English something we do in Spanish that we don't do in English is, in English, we always use the pronoun I, am, you are, he is, she is, we are, they are. We always put the pronoun in front of it. But in Spanish, we really don't need to, because if I said soy, well, there's no other word that would go with soy. It has to be yo, it has to be I. So sometimes you could say yo soy for I am, or you could just say soy, and that would still mean I am. And most of the time, if you'd say yo soy, you're emphasizing the fact that it's I. So soy, I am, but if I say yo soy, I am. Okay, we're kind of emphasizing it a little bit. Same thing with two. We really don't have to say two if we're going to say eres. More often than not, though, if we get to number 3, el or ella or usted or it, we're probably going to use the pronoun a little bit more, at least at the beginning, until we know for certain who we're talking about. But if I would say Juan es, John is, and John would be equivalent to el for he is. Well, if I went to the next sentence, I could probably just say yes, because we already know from the context that we're talking about John. So we don't always have to put the pronouns in front like we do in English. So él es, ella es, usted es, it, we would just say the word es, meaning it is. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. Well, let's do a little exercise down here, and it'll be pretty simple. All I want you to do is figure out the equivalent of the Spanish subject pronoun and the verb ser for the following English pronouns and the verb ser. So if I have he is, well, I would expect you to come up with él. Okay, put an accent mark over the L. And I'd say S, él es. That would be the answer. He is. Well, if I have we are, but I'm explaining that it's feminine, that we that are girls are the ones that are saying are, then I would say nosotras. Again, we could look back up for we. We are, we feminine is nosotras. And are would be somos. Nosotras somos. If I would say they are, well, let's just pause for a minute and let's see if you can figure out the rest of them. There's only 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let's have you figure out the rest of them, and I'll pause and then we'll come back and make sure you got the right answer. So 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, we're back. So you should have done 3 through 7. We have they, and we're being told that they is feminine. So if we look up they that are feminine, we'd have ellas. So let's write ellas. And the word are we would use would be son. Ellas son. Number 4, número 4. We want to say you, and we're talking about you that is familiar, my friend or my peer or relative. So let's go look that up. That would be tú. Doesn't have to be capitalized, but in English, we capitalize the pronoun I, but in Spanish, we don't really have to capitalize any of them as pronouns. So I would say tú, and then the word for are with tú would be eres, tú eres. Number 5, we have it is. Do you remember how to say it in Spanish? Well, I hope you don't remember how to say it, because if we look up it, remember there's no word for it. But to get across the idea that it is, we would just use the word es. And if we just saw es, then we would know it is. Okay. Es un milagro. It is a miracle. Es importante. It is important. So we just say the word es. Finally, let's pick one of those from Spain. We would say you are. And we're talking about plural from Spain. We're going to say it's masculine. It's familiar. So we're talking to people that we know, that's our own age, that's in our peer group. And if we make it masculine, it would be vosotros with the os, and our ending would be sois. So we'll put it down here. We'll practice it now. But again, in normal speech, I'm not going to expect us to do the vosotros. So we got vosotros, sois. I won't have you do that because, they don't use it around here, only in Spain. Finally, the last one, I am. Well, we can scroll back up. The word for I is yo. And so I could put yo. And then I would say am would be soy. Yo soy, I am. Now, as I talked about before, do I really have to have the word yo? No, I don't have to have it there, because soy would mean that's the only possibility it could be. Anyways, we've gone through and got a very quick lesson with the verb ser. This is the number 1 used verb in Spanish, the most common one that's used. There's probably, you're not going to read hardly anything that doesn't get an is, am, or are in it. Just like in English, you're not going to read very much without getting an is, am, or are. And English, we got is, am, or are, 3 conjugations, but in Spanish, we've got 6 conjugations. We've got soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. Okay, so now, well, we're going to go ahead and end the lesson. Once again, I hope that you enjoyed learning about conjugations. If there are other Spanish lessons you would like to have, you can learn Spanish by jokes. You can learn Spanish by songs. You can learn Spanish by short videos off the internet. You can learn Spanish with stories written by Spanish authors, or you can learn about Spanish culture. I have classes in all of these. And to get those classes, you would just go to the website and look up Spanish Made fun, except if you're writing it as a website, then we'll write it all together and we don't need capital letters. We got Spanish, made fun, and then we go .com, SpanishMadeFun.com. And let's see, I got a capital letter there I don't really need. So SpanishMadeFun.com, that would be your link to go and get some other lessons. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next lesson.